Live radio programs and live entertaining and news package programs right here from GTR, Ghana Talks Radio. This is Ghana Talks Radio, the best station rocking the nation. GTR News. The news others choose. We bring you local news, business news, international, sports, and entertainment news. Right here on GTR.
Fruitful new month and welcome to the afternoon news on Ghana Talks Radio. My name is Sandra Asante. Top stories. Ghana becomes the first African country to evacuate its nationals from Ukraine. First batch arrives today. WAEC cancels the entire result of 46 students. Also on the international front, on the Russian invasion, new missile hit center of Kharkiv. There's some more stories coming up after the break. Stay tuned.
Ghana Talks Radio wo UK abrochimemu era from Ghana mu ha the sound system which spinning machine papa every amana ne ababegu o Ghana mu ha enti se we ye a year we ye engagement we ye wedding we ye birthday party political parties are mo ye rally some we ye sorry mo ye crusade so we bo carnival or any kind of event now we pe spinning machine papa a boa sound no mu de dia ene me kanfo GTR sounds de emawo ye wa live band nso a woto nsa de frenya ye betimi ababeboa ama wudwumedi a wudie nso atimi aye kama pa ye wo enkan poponi mantamo anya aponchi hotel ho pepepe na ye butuo odi an se wo be frɛ empanifo e wo 0546960510 GTR sounds e mu de angaza
News. The news others choose.
You're most welcome back from the break to first story. There have been multiple reports of explosions, bombing, and Russian military vehicles entering Ukraine from various parts of the border with Russia, with a growing numbers of casualties being counted on both sides after President Putin's invasion. Ghanaians in Ukraine, particularly students, called on the government of Ghana to come to their aid and possibly evacuate them from the country. In response to this calls, government through the Foreign Affairs Ministry expressed concern over the situation and asked them to seek a safe place of abode in the interim while it worked to ensure their safety. The well-being of Ghanaians in Ukraine has been the great concern following the recent tensions in the country, and the ministry put pressure as well as measures into place to help them evacuate. Ghanaia's honorary consul to Ukraine, Dr. Albert Kecha, also has stated that 400 Ghanaians have also so far exited Ukraine. According to him, more than Ghanaians are expected to leave the embattled country in the coming days, and further explain how the coordinated process is done. The first batch of Ghanaian residents and students evacuated from Ukraine arrives in Accra today. Ghana has become the first African country to evacuate its nationals from Ukraine following Russia's invasion. These persons were rescued through neighboring countries by land due to the shutdown of Ukraine's airspace since the beginning of the unrest in the country. The 17 students arrived today, Tuesday, this morning at the Kotoka International Airport. The Foreign Ministry earlier said that 460 Ghanaian students were en route to Poland, Hungary, Romania, Slovakia, and Czech Republic. They are expected to return home in coming days. The total number of Ghanaians living in Ukraine is unknown, and the government is currently meeting parents and guardians to document all students who were based in Ukraine. It is estimated that more than 1,000 Ghanaian nationals are currently studying or working in Ukraine. Still on local stories, the West African Examination Council (WAEC) has announced the release of results for the 2021 edition of the Basic Education Certificate Examination. A total of 572,167 candidates made up of 287,730 males and 284,437 females sat for the examination. In a press release on February 28th, the council said the entire results of 46 candidates have been cancelled for the offence of either sending mobile phones into examination hall or impersonation. The council further stated that the subject result of 138 candidates have also been cancelled for the offence of either bringing in foreign materials into the examination hall or colluding with other candidates. Meanwhile, the subject result of 148 candidates and the entire result of 109 candidates have been withheld pending conclusion of investigations into their alleged cases of malpractices. According to the council, a total number of candidates for last year increased by 7.61% as compared to the number for 2020, which is 531,707. So in all, the 18,028 schools represented candidates for the examination, which was administered at 2,158 centers, that is 7,315 representing 12.28% were absent out of the total number of candidates who registered for the exams. The council cautioned all stakeholders to be wary of fraudsters who promise to upgrade results for a fee. So candidates can access their result online at the council's website www.bayekgh.org or wait for the metropolitan, municipal, district directors of education to dispatch result to their various schools. Lawyers of the embattled #Fix the Country convener Oliver Becker-Vormawor have dragged the Inspector General, IGP, and Attorney General AG to the Supreme Court to challenge the decision to put their client before a district court. They want the court to determine whether the police have discharged the constitutional duty by sending their client to a court with no jurisdiction to consider a bail application. According to them, the ruling of the High Court B. Tema dated 17th February 2022 entails a grave error of law, which error is patent on the face of record. On Monday, February 28th, the Ashama District Court ordered the removal of Oliver Becker-Vormawor from its premises. The youth activist has engaged in heated exchanges with the magistrate Eleanor Barrett-Botry. The applicants are, by their motion, praying the court to exercise its discretion to grant the following reliefs. His lawyers, led by Justice Srem Sai, had inquired about the court's authority to deal with the matters that affect the liberty of the Cambridge PhD student. Becker-Vormawor was later heard lashing out at the ongoing legal processes against him, describing it as a sham. The application will be heard on Wednesday by the Supreme Court. One supporter of Becker expresses how bad the government is treating him.
Now I think Ghanaians are beginning to realize that Oliver is for Ghana, and whatever he said was for ordinary Ghanaian. And whatever intimidations Ghanaian government, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's government is doing possible to make sure that they would frustrate him, they would let him keep quiet, for him not to talk again, is getting vegan. All right, so we are going to make sure that we stand very strong and defend him in everything he's doing. But what we can say finally to all the people of this country is that the government and the people in office are doing everything possible to make sure that they keep the ordinary Ghanaian in the dark, and for whoever that rise up to enlighten the Ghanaian citizen, he will go through this. So Oliver is aware of everything that he is going through now. Today,
were you surprised he was removed from the court? He was trying to talk back to the judge and he had to be removed. He must be frustrated. You've been interacting with him. What exactly is the issue?
Oliver.
GTR News. The news others choose.
To some business stories, President Akufo-Addo says in a public interest of the public that the proposed electronic transaction levy E-levy be enacted into law to improve the country's tax to GDP ratio on the equitable basis. He said that E-levy was an innovative fiscal measure that will shore up Ghana's fiscal profile and raise the funds needed for the speedy transformation of the economy. Speaking at the opening of the Median National Labour Conference at Kwawe-Nkotia in the Eastern region on Monday, President Akufo-Addo emphasized that it is time the country raised money domestically to fund its development imperatives and ended its dependence on foreign savings. It will be reinforced to tripartite conversations on the dynamics and happenings of the labor front and endanger discussions on the state of economy, conditions of service of public sector workers, public sector salaries, labor productivity, labor dispute prevention and resolution, as well as sustainable pensions for all. The conference will inform and shape government's approach for the solution of the labor issues for national development. This is what the president has to say.
We have to make concerted efforts as partners to hasten our recovery from COVID-19 by finding intelligent ways of bringing everyone on board to contribute their quota, no matter how small. Government, on its part, is implementing a policy of cutting the budgets of ministries, departments, and agencies by 20% this year as its contribution to measures to ensure fiscal consolidation. Ghana's tax to GDP ratio of 12.2% compares unfavorably with our peers the world over. The average tax to GDP ratio in West Africa stands at 18%, and indeed, the recommended ratio for ECOWAS member states is a minimum.
GTR News. The news others choose.
To our next business story, leading telecommunication firm MTN Ghana says it continued to engage government and other regulatory stakeholders on the implementation of the electronic transaction levy and working on its system readiness for implementation. This is, however, subject to the passage of the tax, which has witnessed back and forth as the minority in parliament have vehemently opposed it. In a 2021 financial statement, MTN Ghana said though it acknowledges the impact of the proposed levy on its customers and it has committed to reducing fees on P2P transactions by 25% upon implementation of the E-levy to lessen the overall impact on consumers. On 17th November 2021, the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta presented the 2022 budget statement and economic policy of Ghana, introducing a levy on electronic transactions to widen the tax net. The 1.75% E-levy will cover electronic transactions on mobile money, bank transfers, merchant payments, and inward remittances. The levy, when approved, will be borne by the sender, except for inward remittances, in which case the levy will be borne by the receiver. MTN records 2 billion cedis profit in 2021. Meanwhile, MTN Ghana recorded 2 billion cedis profit in 2021, an increase of 43.5% over the previous year. Still on business, a Cape Coast High Court proceeded over by Justice Akufo-Addo signed out a bank staff in the robbery of 600,000 cedis and gave him a hefty sentence of 25 years. Michael Ofosu alias Berza, who was a cleaner working at the Ghana Commercial Bank branch at Asekuma in the central region, was among 4 persons who conspired to rob a bank customer of 600,000 cedis. In sentencing the 4 persons, Justice Akufo-Addo indicated that even though Michael's share of the booty was the least, 10,000 cedis, he decided to single him out and deal with him severely. The judge remarked, and I quote, "I take good note of the role he played in commissioning the robbery. For the purpose of emphasis, the undisputed evidence is that Michael called one of the robbers on phone to alert him that the customer had withdrawn the money and was leaving the bank premises. Based on the call placed by the bank staff to this counterpart, they succeeded in the operation. The judge describes Michael's behavior as a danger and a threat to society." Justice Akufo-Addo sent a strong warning to staff of banks with such intentions to abandon them now, as the court will deal with them ruthlessly. You're still listening to the afternoon news on Ghana Talks Radio on the international front. One in the video below contains quite distressing footage. Ukraine's foreign affairs minister has tweeted a video of explosion in Kharkiv's Freedom Square and accuses Russian President Vladimir Putin of war crimes. He is calling on the world to isolate Russia. On that is really a very disturbing video there, but still on the story, Ukraine's president has described the bombardment of the Kharkiv, which has killed dozens of civilians, as a war crime. 9 people, including 3 children, were killed on Monday after suspected Russia cluster cluster bombs targeted residence building in Ukraine's second city. In comments made before the latest strikes in central Kharkiv, Vladimir Zelensky said there were eyewitnesses account to civilians being deliberately targeted. Russian forces brutally fired on Kharkiv from jet artillery, Zelensky said during a late-night address to Ukrainian people. It was clearly a war crime. Peaceful city, peaceful residential area, no military facility. Dozens of eyewitnesses record proof that this is not a single false volley, but a deliberate distraction of people. The Russians knew where they were shooting, President Zelensky noted. The International Criminal Court Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan has opened an investigation into Russia's invasion after he said he believed there was reasonable basis to believe war crimes or crimes against humanity has been committed in Ukraine. Still on international stories, Russia will use even more heavy-handed tactics in Ukraine and any war crimes will be prosecuted, the UK's Deputy Prime Minister says. Dominic Raab said, on top of all the measures we are taking, we are also supporting the effort to make sure evidence of war crime is preserved. He told BBC Breakfast Show the international community was not willing to impose a no-fly zone over Ukraine because it will involve a willingness to shoot down Russian planes, which is clearly escalating. Instead, the UK was putting all of its effort into economic sanctions that were starving Putin's war machines or finances. They were also hitting oculars who needed access to the international system and who will apply pressure on Putin, he said. Let's listen to him.
Lawyer before I became a politician, and I remember the action that we took in relation to Bosnia, and just recently one of the butchers of Bosnia, Radovan Karadzic, via a courtroom in The Hague has ended up in a UK prison for war crimes, and that shows you our willingness to wait for how long it takes, however long it takes, to make sure there's accountability for any violations of the law of war. The International Criminal Court, the prosecutor, happens to be a Brit, Karim Khan, but of course entirely independent, has said that he is looking at the situation very carefully, and if and when the ICC decides to take action, the UK and I'm sure many of our allies would want to support them practically, logistically, in any way possible.
GTR News. The news others choose.
Still on Ukraine-related stories, the African Union has said that it is disturbed by the report of Africans in Ukraine being refused the right to cross the border to safety. The body urged all countries to respect international law and offer assistance to everyone fleeing from the war, irrespective of their race. Report that Africans are singled out for unacceptable dissimilar treatment would be shockingly racist and in breach of international law, AU said in a statement issued late Monday. The union hailed member countries and their embassies in countries neighboring Ukraine who are supporting those fleeing from the war. Africans living in Ukraine had accompanied of racism. They have complained of racism at the Ukraine's Poland border. Nigeria will on Wednesday start repatriation flights to countries bordering Ukraine for its citizens who are willing to return home. According to the foreign minister, Jeffrey Oyema said about 5,600 Nigerians are still in Ukraine, most of them students, and efforts were underway to ensure they move to safety in neighboring Romania, Poland, Slovakia, and Hungary. He said Russia would also be one of its exit points. Ukraine shut down its airspace last week following Russia's invasion. Hundreds of Nigerian nationals have already left Ukraine by trains and buses, but many of them and other Africans had complained of discrimination at border crossing after being prevented from boarding trains and buses that were carrying foreigners fleeing the conflict. Before we wrap it up, some entertainment story. And Warner Bros. Disney and Sony have halted the release of films in Russia's cinemas after the invasion of Ukraine. The announcement means the releases of major movies, The Batman, Turning Red, and Morbius will now not go ahead as scheduled in the country. The come as governments around the world have been ramping up their sanctions against Moscow. In recent days, global corporations, including car makers and energy giants, have cut businesses ties with Russia. Warner Bros. Blockbuster The Batman was due to be released in Russia on Friday. In light of the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine, Warner Media is pausing the release of its feature film The Batman in Russia, the spokesperson said. This is where I draw the curtains on the afternoon news. Thank you so much for watching and listening. You can log on to our website www.ghanatalksradio.com for more news update. My name is Sandra Asante. Enjoy your new month.
GTR News.